I did it. Black Mirror season 4, all 6 episodes in basically one sitting. So it was a fun time, man. I'm sad that it's over. I waited a long time for it, and I just consumed it so fast that now I have to wait a long time. Hopefully there is a season 5. But that is, the upside of binge watching is that you get to watch it all at once, and it's like one long cool movie or whatever. And the downside is this, that I just fucking engorged myself on this season, and now it's gone. Like, boom, you waited all this time, and then, out in a second. This one, getting into the spoiler discussion for this final episode, Black Museum. This is kind of a meta episode in a way. Number one, it's an anthology episode within an anthology show. And number two, it connects to other episodes in the series and this season and previous seasons. So that was like, so there is some connective tissue to some of these stories. I mean, obviously, some of the stories take place in, dystopian wastelands and whatnot, so it couldn't be connected to this story. But some of the ones that can, you see pop up in the museum, and I was like, I recognize that and this and a couple little things. So that was interesting. And not something I expected, and I don't know. I'm of two minds on it. Like, in one way I was like, that's cool, and in another way it's kind of like, I like that they're completely separate from each other, and I can think that they're in different universes, but it's not necessary, so I'm not upset about it at all. I guess I've always seen it as like completely different existences. Like, we're seeing glimpses into possible futures, and they're not connected. So these kind of connected some of them, and I'm like, well, now I have to think like this is taking place in that same universe as this one. So anyway, as I said, I'm not like bummed about it or mad about it or anything. It just kind of was like irked me a little. So let's get into the wraparound, which is this young girl coming to the museum. Now, of course, she was black, and it's called the Black Museum. I knew nothing about this episode going in, so I thought it was going to be, I don't know, something to do with like African American heritage. I don't know. Like, when she walked up, I thought she saw it and was like, I got to go check this out. So I don't know, my brain went there, but so it wasn't, obviously. This kind of reminds me of most anthology movies, but especially something like Body Bags or Tales from the Hood, where the guy's taking him around, he's showing him specific items, and he's like, let me tell you the story about what this is. And the first two are meaty and have a lot going on in them, and then the third one's just small and plays into the wraparound. But let's talk about the first one. This doctor puts a thing on his head, or gets the implant, and the people put the thing on their head, and he can feel their pain to diagnose their illnesses quicker. That's a really cool thought. I mean, he's a total badass for doing this. Jesus Christ, like, to be sitting there and feeling appendicitis and cancer and broken bones and horrible pain just to help people. I mean, that is one committed ass doctor. Then it gets, and he can feel pleasure too. So when he's fucking his girlfriend, his wife, I think, he can feel her, feelings too, and he's having a multiple orgasms, a male and a female orgasm at the exact same time. Like, shit, I'm surprised that didn't kill him. But then it gets crossed, and he starts feeling pleasure from pain, and he becomes a junkie on it to the point where he's like, lets a woman basically die. I think she does end up dying, right? She goes flatline. I don't know, they say if she died or not, but he lets a woman die so that he can feel her heart attack, and he's beating on his girlfriend, and then he starts mutilating himself, but obviously without the fear, he doesn't get the proper fix that he needs. So he goes out and tortures a guy by drilling into his brain, which puts him in a kind of constant state of arousal and excitement and happiness, and he's like in this comatose perfect state. So I guess he hit nirvana, which is what I guess they said he was going for. So this whole thought of like being able to feel someone else's pain, or feeling pain for pleasure. I know people who cut themselves, supposedly they get some kind of arousal out of it. I've never understood pain as pleasurable, so I'm not that person at all to think of it. And watching him just cut himself up, cut toes off, that's one of the most graphic things I've seen in Black Mirror, both on screen and just, you know, mentally thinking about it. Like, this guy is mutilating himself, his toes are laying on the ground and shit. That was gnarly ass shit. And there's some good humor in this episode too. It's kind of like dark comedy at times, and that humor lands really well for me. So yeah, first good anthology there. Moving on to the second one, we have the perfect couple, and she gets hit by the car and she's in a coma, and they want to transfer her consciousness into his brain. Just the thought of living in someone else's head and having to feel the sensations that they feel, yet again, from the last one. But that not being able to control it at all, and the fights and the, like, I want to do this, and doing what they want to do all the time. It's like being, you know, a servant to your lover, like just doing whatever the hell they want all the time, but literally with no ability to, protect yourself from that. That's a crazy thought. She can't just walk out the door when she's done with that shit. She's got to stay in his head. And the fact that he can just end up pausing her, and then he unpauses her, and it's only been like a second for her, but it could be a week, months, whatever. And she agrees to like weekends, he's getting older, and she's only experiencing 2 days out of 7. So her life is being shortened drastically, and he dies, she dies with him. It's a scary thought. But yet again, she gets to feel his orgasm. So we kind of, there's a little bit of, you know, similar ideas going on in both the first and the second episode here, or anthology segment, should I say. But yeah, I just like, and then this bitch comes around who is so quick to kill her, throw her in a toy, just get her out of the way any way she can. It's like dealing with an ex-girlfriend, but she's willing to kill her to get rid of her. Like she's just, as she says, just code in his head at this point. And it's like, you don't understand this shit. You need to shut the fuck up. She like pushes the doll against the wall and is like in its face. And that chick was evil, man. That was one of the most evil fucking chicks in this whole season. I was really annoyed with her. And then she's just stuck inside a monkey, inside of a toy. She can't move. She can't do anything. That is that is prison. That is torture. That is hell. God, awful, awful. I mean, she can feel, right? So could they hurt her inside that thing? Could they mangle her up? Could they beat her? Oh, it's a terrible thought. And then we move into the third segment, which there, isn't a ton to talk about here. We find out this guy has been permanently imprisoned and permanently being tortured to the point of being a vegetable. Now, this is a terrifying thought as well. Like a prisoner, because there's always this argument of like the death penalty being the easy way out. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I'm not trying to get into some debate about that. But I'm saying like there's that argument of like, do you want them incarcerated for life, or do you want them killed so that they can't live any more life? And some people are on this side and this side, and this is kind of like both of those combined into one. Like, you're a prisoner and you're dead, And this guy takes it even a step further, where this guy just constantly is tortured for tourists' pleasure. Now, how many people would actually come in and get off on pulling the switch on him? I don't know. Maybe if they thought he was a murderer, a lot of people would probably line up. I would not be one of those people. But then they like store it in this little souvenir keepsake, and I guess his consciousness feels that pain at all times, or that mini one, like it's like a sublet, like they take it away and it's like a separate thing. I don't know if he's feeling what their thing is, because that wouldn't really make much sense, because how many of those could he feel at once? I mean, I feel like one would be enough, but maybe it's like a separate consciousness, like every time they take one away, it's like breaking a little piece of soul. Like the fucking Deathly Hallows in Harry Potter. I don't know, but ultimate payback. She does it to this guy, and she has him in the ball, so there's some consciousness in there, because he's gone from putting him inside the other guy's body, and she hangs him from the mirror, and she takes the doll. I was glad she took the doll with her, because it was like, oh, like, we're gonna leave her behind, like she's just stuck in there. So I was happy that she grabbed her, because she understands. She has that same thing going on inside her head. Mom's in her head. Mom got to witness it. And so they kind of take the old companion with them, somebody else who's going through what Mom's going through. So that was sweet. But yeah, I didn't love this episode. I really enjoyed a lot of it, like especially this first segment within it. I thought that was really, really good. The second one was pretty good. The third one I wasn't huge on. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So these last two episodes were kind of my weakest of the season, but overall I loved this season. It was mostly all I could ask for, with episode 4 Hang the DJ being my favorite for sure, and episode 2 being a close second. But great season. I'm glad I got to knock it all out today. I don't know if I missed anything. I might have, but yeah. If I missed something you want to add to that, so in this episode or any of the other episodes, I obviously reviewed all of them today. So go ahead and leave me a line down below. Let's talk about it. I'm curious on everyone's thoughts. Which one of these segments was your favorite in this? Did you like this episode? Did you not? Did you hate this season? Do you think I'm a fucking idiot? Whatever. Tell me. I can take it. All right, guys. Oh.